if you're a fisherman, which all of us are, and you don't get excited about what's coming out at ICAST, you're nutty. Because I'm telling you, I sit here all day long thinking about things that are coming out, looking at things and looking at products, looking at old, looking at new, doing all that stuff. And with me today is JT Harden, Jack Dice from GSM. Guys, we're fired up. We are ready for this year's ICAST show. And Jack, I guess first I'll start with you, then JT hop in and run it how you want to here. But we have got more new stuff, good stuff that I'm seeing, that I'm getting a little bit of a, I don't know what you call a teaser on some of the new stuff that's coming out. And if you can't get excited about this time of year, then you might as well be dead, because I can tell you right now, I'm excited about it. Jack, you guys have got 8,722 brands, right? I
Yep.
can't even keep up with all of them. I mean, and that's just on the fishing side. Then you got 8,722 on the hunting side too. But GSM has made a mark in a big way early. And I used to say every time GSM buys somebody, I lose a customer. But I can tell you that, they buy somebody, they were a customer, now they're not anymore. But anyway, it's really cool to see what ICAST is going to be like this year. Can you kind of give me a primer to start with? And then JT, jump in here, because I know you've been integral in a lot of this stuff as well.
Yeah, ICAST is, so for me, my title is product development manager over the fishing, the 822 brands but my focus is on the bait brands, because I'm a fisherman first. I'm a guy who's spent a lot of money on tackle, and that's what I'm trying to build, is always a better mousetrap. We have an incredible crew at GSM, between our pro staff and the actual crew that we have working internally at GSM, and peripheral. Maybe he works with us, people like JT. But ICAST is kind of the culmination of a year's hard work. So it's exciting. And what's cool, what I love about the GSM team, and why I bring it up, is because we have real end users on our team. And so when it comes to like how that translates into what we bring out at ICAST, it's people with experience and bringing old baits that, a lot of what's new is just old, that's been like redone. And so for us, we go back in the vault. A lot of the baits we were coming out with are things that they have that concept that someone did, back in the day. Really, there was something there, but they maybe didn't execute it the way we think it could be. A bait could be done to its fullest potential. And then we also try to balance that with, like hopping on the latest trends. And there's no trend that's really taken the fishing world by storm quite like the urchin craze. We were kind of ahead of it, luckily, with the uni. And so we've got expansions on that, but all of that is coming out in really everything. It's centered around ICAST is when the most of this will get revealed. So for me, it's like a sigh of relief, more like, whoo, we're here. But I know I've also been, looking around on social media, looking around online, starting to look at what's leaking out of what's going to come, because I'm excited too to see what else the fishing world has to offer.
Well, for the record, I have got socks that are older than you. Okay, so just letting you know where I'm at with this whole process, and I love seeing the young guys enthused like you. Talk about the uni real quick if you can. What brand will that fall under, and then kind of talk about what you're doing there, and are there any changes or anything that you can let out of the bag?
Yeah, so the uni is a Yamamoto product. And as you can see, JT dangling it there. Like, what's funny is that, so like, I talk about the team. Like, we have some of the best anglers in the world, guys I respect a ton on their fishing ability and their insight into what's coming, what trends are actually going to stick versus just kind of flashes in the pan. And we had some guys that were, hey, they were on the JDM websites. They were seeing the urchin stuff coming from Japan. They said, this is, you need to look at this. And this was a while back. And so I started playing with it, and I was like, at first, everyone who first saw that thing said, there is no way. Like, I remember back, it was only a couple of years ago when the dice stuff, the fuzzy dice started showing up, and people were like, that's crazy. That's just the most ridiculous thing. But it was like that times 10 with the urchin. It was like, when you first saw it, was like, this is just getting out of hand. This is ridiculous. But when you put it in front of fish, I mean, that is the, fishermen can lie, fish don't lie. Like
True.
if they want to eat it, they're going to eat it. And so that was the truth, is that I found is like, oh my gosh, this thing is actually works. And so we last year at ICAST came out with the uni, and the uni we took a lot of the principles that I was seeing in urchin baits and talking to guys. But what was interesting is that the truth is that we were it was so early, we didn't fully understand the technique even. Like I just knew that you put the bait on a hook and you got bites, because that profile, it did something that fish hadn't seen before. They bit it. But like, I didn't fully understand the technique at the time, and neither did the people like on our team that had brought it to me. So the uni is actually, it's a really good finesse urchin. It's a smaller size. And so what we've come to find is like, it's pretty obvious that the larger sizes you go, to this point, it seems like they'll still bite it. It doesn't seem to intimidate them. So we're coming out with the uni moss and maybe some more, but the uni moss actually is getting unveiled today. It's a 20 millimeter ball at the center. And it's a lot of our newer unis are utilizing HD formula, which is a high density formula, which means that those tentacles retain their position a lot more, because what I've come to experience, and what I think a lot of the anglers who are using this technique are seeing, is that it's not as much the profile and movement of the bait. Those play into it and why it gets bit. But my personal, my 2 cents, for what it's worth, and everybody has, everybody's got an opinion, but it seems to me like what makes a difference, and the reason the fish tend to bite it, as opposed to, or one urchin over another, or even one way you present an urchin over another, is its water displacement. It's water movement. It's just like all the great baits throughout, like, hey, why did a chatterbait catch them? So certain ones catch them so much better, or certain swim bait with the right thump. It's water displacement. There's certain vibrations, certain movements that fish seem to gravitate towards. And it seems like the right urchins, like the unis, especially our newer ones with the high density formula, it's not about them flowing and having kind of a lot of movement. It's about them retaining their position, so that every time you twitch it or you're hitting it like a jerk bait, it's pushing an immense amount of water, more than really any soft bait out there. And that's, to me, is with the power of the urchin craze in general. And that's what we've tried to implement in the uni. But also, it's not strictly about just, hey, just move water. Just, if that was the case, you just put a big giant block and see if that would be. It's about kind of the way it moves water. And so that's also why, like, the uni has little, your typical straight tail worm that we've caught fish on for years. What I've caught fish on for years, it's like one of the hardest baits to beat in the book. A bait like a robo worm that has just a little bit of difference in the contour of the worm, where right at the end you get a bulb, and we integrated that into the uni just to change the water displacement, so that you have a different amount of mass at the end of each tentacle to catch water and move it. But then as it slims down, it lets water around it, so that you get them to actually quiver. But then we've got each tentacle on the uni has a thicker base than average, and that's to hold its position again, to push water again. So that's a long-winded answer, but that's a little bit of the behind the scenes of the work that goes into it.
Awesome.
We see a lot of just urchins. This is why we believe that we built one of the best ones out there.
I don't know how we stuck JT in the audio visual portion of this thing, because he's holding baits up and doing all that. I will tell you my theory about the urchin. All right. Okay. It's living proof. It's living proof that a bass has a brain that big. That's what it is to me. It's that big. It's all reaction type stuff. And like you said, displacement, water, doing the things it does in the water. A bass doesn't have hands. So it's real easy for an old guy like me to understand. He doesn't have hands, so he sees something he thinks he should eat, he's going to, right? But it's the little things, the tweaking that you just went over so well there with the uni. It's those little things can make such a big difference. I mean, you can talk about color, you can talk about tentacles, you can talk about all that stuff, but in reality, where it comes down to is a fish is going to react to something that he wants to eat. And I think you did a great job of explaining that.
Serious gear for serious anglers. DD26 delivers tournament-tough performance you can trust. From the front to back of your boat, DD26 has you covered. DD26. No shortcuts, just badass American-made gear.
It's not even the fact that they bite this bait, it's how they bite it. They engulf it. I mean, it is down to the crushers. I mean, it's not like we've been underwater, we've filmed all this stuff. We do stuff with Kim Stricker, and so you see the way that we've all used a crawfish forever, right? You've got the Amacraw, you've got on. You might have a bedded bass, pick up a pincher and move it or do whatever. They don't. They don't just nibble this thing. I mean, they hammer it, and you're not. I mean, you can pin them and everything else, but it's the way that they eat this style of bait. If you can get them, we have seen, with all the testing and stuff. I mean, it's not just a magic bait that's always going to make them bite or anything like that. We know it's the newest, craze, and it's here, but it's insane how they bite this thing. I mean,
cool thing about it is size. I know pan fishermen. I know guys that are catching bluegill, big bluegill, and they're using a little bitty small and little fuzzy dice type bait like that. And, so you've got this genre that can be just about anything you want it. You mentioned, Jack, earlier that, hey, the bigger they get, they seem to still bite it. And, I always felt like when I first saw them, I thought it was probably going to be like throwing a potato chip. It's not going to go anywhere. But now we've got all these different ways of doing it. Now, JT, you got my curiosity up. A lot of guys are rigging it with a treble hook. And if they're getting it down to the crushers with a treble hook, that would bother me from a standpoint of a conservationist. Are you seeing different ways that you're seeing now? You guys are coming out probably with something, the way that people are rigging it?
There's so many different, like when Jack said, when this was first brought over to Jack and he was sending us stuff, I mean, it was Tokyo rigged or Jika rigged, and they were throwing it to the bottom and kind of that's all the video footage that Jack and I, we had from Japan. That's how. And then along came, a single hook, right? Then everybody did that. Then a treble hook. And now the biggest craze is a frog hook. I mean, you got a big giant double frog hook in there. And when it is, when you pin that sucker in there, it's not coming out. So I think that's, everybody has their own way. We all have pro bass fishermen, all this stuff, and everybody has their own way. I think people are going to find their own way in how they hook up, how they land more bass with it, and that kind of thing. I think the single hook and the frog hook is the way that I like to. The treble hook is kind of the craze, but those are the two ways that I have found that I peg a fish, it's not getting off, and I'm easily releasing those fish. I mean, I can get that giant hook down there with a pair of pliers if I need to, and get them out and release them.
All right. Well, I don't want to beat the uni to death because I want to get to some other stuff here, but I can tell you that now we've got tackle boxes. I saw Kumar came out the other day. They were putting them in a Pringles can. Have you seen that? They put it on a wire straight down in a Pringles can. I love this. I love the innovation that's coming out of this. I really do. You guys have got some
that Pringles can came. I think that, Jack, came from the uni, because the uni, Yamamoto uni, is the only one that actually comes in a round cylinder, and it comes with this is the wire that it comes in. So when you buy that bait, I mean, it's basically centered just like that in the packaging. But now we found out that you can basically take that same one and put 3 of these on there and put it in there. So you're less storage and stuff like that. But so you're saving a little money on there because we've already got the packaging. So you can buy 3 unis, put them all on one, take your favorite colors and put them on there. But they're not losing their shape.
Potato chips. Then eat a couple potato chips while you're, when you take your bait out, have a couple chips and then make a cast or 2.
You're catching so many fish, you don't have time to eat potato chips, DJ.
No. I bet I can figure it out. Here's the thing with all the different brands. Of course, we talked about Yamamoto a little bit there. You guys have got Buckeye out there that's coming out. I know Gerald Swindle's come out with a buzz bait that's really cool. I've used it. I've thrown it. It's a great bait. There's a lot of other things that are coming along the pike, Jack. Tell me a little bit about you, and JT, tell me about some of the filming and some of the stuff you're doing with some of the baits and what successes you've had.
So it's like you mentioned, we've got 1,872 brands, it feels like. So, and each brand is its own has its own identity, its own character, and its own, the baits that kind of fit within each one. It's mostly broken out by categories. We've got Bill Lewis is our hard bait brand. We've got Buckeye as our hard, lead pour and wire bait brand, but we've got brands that cross over, and we're really fortunate where each brand also has its own, like you mentioned, Swindle with Buckeye. We've got guys who kind of really drive each of those brands. So like we've got a bait like that's getting unveiled today with Big Bite. A guy who's really helped us with that brand is Drew Gill. He's turned that thing into that really put that brand back on the map in a lot of ways, in my opinion, with just his innovation that he's bringing to baits. And so like that started a couple years ago with the Nico Rama. He said, he had just, again, on the surface, very simple to just have a straight tail worm, but you talk to him, it's anything but simple to talk your ear off. Worse than me right now.
He's a genius. Drew Gill is a genius to me. I mean, from a kid that as young as he is, but if you sit and talk to him, which I have done, when you sit and talk to him, there's just a special, he's very cerebral when it comes to that very thing you're mentioning there. So, guy, that's great. That's kudos to him for that.
Yeah. So anyway, he came out with the Nico Rama. We're coming out with a smaller one this year, like just as a stepping stone, just a more finesse version, a lot of the same attributes that he wanted, kind of the right proportions between how fast the tail tapers so that you get a lot of tail movement, but the head has enough mass to hold your nail weight, to hold your O-ring, but also the proportions just being right every time you hit it, that it reverberates the whole worm. So you get the right vibration, just all the little things that you would never think about that he has definitely thought about. So that's one we're excited about. But I know JT has got a certain crankbait he's been testing. He's been telling me about it. This is like, again, when we talk about, we want to, across our brands, what makes it exciting to me is having a mix of some classics, some staples, and like, hey, we need a good crawl, we need a good worm, and then also some innovative stuff. So JT, I know you were throwing one of these cranks. It's kind of one of our more unique adds to the lineup this year.
It is definitely unique. And as a guy that lives in the Ozarks, I'm a crankbait fanatic. All the new urchins, all the new baits, all that kind of stuff. But you still put a crankbait in my hand around the rock. You got Palm de Terre, you got Lake of the Ozarks, you got Table Rock, Stockton, Truman. So we're excited about this one. It releases today, but this is called the Brush Crank. If you go on and you see on Bill Lewis today on the social media, you'll see the actual, live scope footage of us taking this thing. I was telling Jack earlier, we got this down to 22 feet with 12-pound test. But again, just like Jack says, when you look at certain things, you saw the urchin, I'm thinking, well, is this thing going to really, whatever. And then Jack and I were on Kentucky Lake, and we had Jake Lawrence and all of us out there and threw it around. And that if the crankbait bite is on Kentucky Lake, it's on. If you can find that school, and we got that school fired up, and it's unique. I mean, it dives super fast. I will say for a plug, it actually gets down deep, but it doesn't pull as hard as a DR24 or a DR18. It comes through the water. I mean, the little lips right here, they come down there, and you'll see in that video, I was blown away by how it actually comes through a brush pile. Those hooks are getting back there like that, and those little wings right there, not only – actually, Jack and I talked about this a lot. We actually think it helps us dive down. It was there to protect, obviously, and get you through the brush, but we find out when you're looking at it, it just dives. It gets down to the level that you need it super, super quick, and it's coming in all the great colors. You've got everything from the chartreuse to the shad colors, but super excited about that one. You can hear it. It's got a great weight transfer system in it.
Some of the big plugs, I was going to say, some of the big plugs you were talking about, how they pull. I've thrown a couple, 3 or 4 big plugs that were as much fun winding them in because you felt like you had something on all the time, right? It's like there's so much resistance. When you catch a fish, it's like anticlimactic because you're pulling the fish in. There's not as much resistance as the plug has. That looks to me like that's pretty streamlined.
Freaking casting. Revolution.
It is,
It is.
very extremely streamlined. Jack can tell you about the design.
Yeah, it's kind of a tighter, surprisingly tighter wiggling crankbait. But the again, like JT mentioned, the purpose of it was built around coming through, like triggering reaction strikes in places that are hard to trigger reaction strikes in a brush pile. A fish that's buried in cover, you got to crawl a big ribbon tail worm through it to traditionally to get a bite, because you got to, you don't want to get snagged. So the brush crank took some inspiration from some old shallow running crankbaits that were meant to come through laydowns and such, that has those kind of plastic wings or lips out extending above each hook. Because what you realize is, if you watch underwater footage of a crankbait or any other bait, most of the time when it's coming through wood, it's actually getting snagged is when the bait goes to roll over each limb. That hook on the belly wants to, like, if a bill's like this, usually with the pressure, it doesn't just come straight over. It wants to turn over one way or the other. And so by having those wings, you just kind of change how far the bait sticks up off the limb as it rolls over. So the hooks just are lifted further away from the branch. So that's to say that when a fish grabs it, they're coming in and grabbing it versus a bait actually rolling over and deflecting. So this bait is meant to be, it's got a super wide body, but it's got kind of flatter sides. So you end up with a kind of a finessey react bait that doesn't pull hard, but it has that weedless ability to just crank through a brush pile as fast as you can. And so, but it's a fatter body, even though it's narrow sides, it's fatter body just to have that buoyancy, so that if you do crank it in, crash it into a brush pile, you can let it float back up and kind of crawl it through the limbs if you wanted to as well.
That's really cool. That's a really good innovation. Now let's talk about, we talked about the crankbait, we talked about the uni. Let's talk about anything. I mean, we got the buzzbait in there somewhere, but I want to talk about plastics too. I know that you talked a little bit about the one Drew Gill's got. You got a tube now too, right? A new tube. Talk to me about that and why it was designed the way it was.
Yeah, new tube might be an oxymoron. I don't know. That sounds like a contradiction in terms, but we've got a
nickname.
But we've got a great guy behind that. You've talked to Fletcher about this, the flat tube from Big Bite. You guys have shot a lot of this, JT. You've got to see it underwater and see what sets it apart, haven't you?
Oh, it's so good. Another thing at the O's, I am an old school tube guy. Love it. I mean, my passion is smallmouth. I'd rather catch nice smallmouth than anything else. And Table Rock, our smallmouth has gotten so much better. So working with Fletcher and watching the design on this, and Jack can laugh at this one. Fletcher's very meticulous. We'll put it that way. Very particular, but I mean, he's done this for years, and they were taking a regular big bite bait and flattening it out and making them and doing so forth. And it was getting the action, but when they actually came out with a flat tube and seeing actually how it comes down, 90% of his bites he was even talking about are coming actually on the first initial fall. You can bounce them off the bottom, but flipping, pitching, all that kind of stuff. And it's not just smallmouth. I mean, the largemouth just, crave it too, but it's got this great action. You can, the stupid tube rigging, and that was years ago and stuff like that. Buckeye has a sled head, certain things like that are made for them, but you Texas rig it, you can pitch it, you can flip it. It skips like there's no tomorrow. So you take a Lake of the Ozarks. I told Fletcher that's one place I haven't thrown it yet is up at Lake of the Ozarks, but there's 75,000 docks at Lake of the Ozarks to get that thing under. So I'm kind of excited to take that up. And then
how does it keep its shape? I mean, is it a certain type of plastic that allows it to be when it's shot, or is it in a mold that makes it that way? I mean, I could see if you take a round tube and you just flatten it out, which is basically kind of what you're looking at here, it would regain its old shape. How does it stay pretty well in the shape that it's coming out as a flat tube?
Absolutely. Yeah. Jack knows more about the design on it, but this, unlike what he was doing, it does take its shape back. This one does not.
Gotcha.
Right. Because he was taking a legit tube and flattening it. We're producing them flat, just modifying the shape of the mandrel that the tubes are dipped on, and the way that we dip them is what's allowing them to be flat straight out the way they're produced. So they're going to remain flat. And again, that whole thing, it's all about the spiral. You got it. It's about that, about not having, again, by the changing the way the water hits it, it's hitting a flat surface. Just like if you dropped a piece of paper off your deck, it's not going to just nosedive. It's going to want to do this. It's the same exact principle that he found made a big difference. Just like, man, the buzzword around square bills forever is hunting action, hunting action, hunting action. It's like, there's something to it though when a bait gets off its track. And so when you get a flipping bait, a bait that you're flipping into cover, or even if you're cracking that tube off the bottom, getting something that instead of doing this, does this, gets off its track, it seems that you just trigger more reaction strikes out of a bait that's really, been around forever.
Do you rig it flat or do you rig it this way?
I would rig it flat because I think alternatively it'd be hard to get your hook through that much plastic because you're condensing it.
And again, unlike it's not just spiraling. I mean, it's a glide. And I think that's like Jack. Anything. Think about when we all first threw a rattle trap every day. You were just burning a rattle trap. Then you figured out how to let it go to the bottom and yo-yo it and bounce it off things. Or like you're thinking of the square bill. When it hits that rock and it pauses or it comes up, that's when they're hitting it. It's like if it's not in that normal just track because a bass or a fish is just tracking it, but when it makes that erratic deal or bounces off something or coming through a brush pile and hits a limb, that's when you're getting that smack. And I mean, the underwater footage and stuff that we've done with Kim and our team, that's when you really get to like see that, right? Or you're forward-facing sonar. I mean, these guys, unlike me, my eyes are getting bad. I mean, Drew and Tucker Smith and those guys, I mean, they can tell you exactly what that bait's doing or what this is doing underneath the water just by their forward-facing and how that fish is reacting. Me, I got to be under the water looking at it with a camera just to even see what it's doing. But it's so crazy to see how some of these baits and what the fish actually do underneath the water and react to them. It's awesome.
We've got, I live in Illinois, which is there's 6 fish that live in Illinois and a big governor. But we've got, new is very important here. I mean, I can remember winning tournaments on a 10-inch worm when nobody thought even about throwing it. And I can remember bigger crankbaits and a lot of this stuff like that. Coming out of ICAST, new is really, really important. And for people that don't have fisheries like you're talking about in Missouri, new can be significant. It can be a color. And unless you're throwing a Cinco, Jack, I'm sorry, I got to put that one in there. You catch a fish in a mud puddle with a Cinco. But
absolutely.
Other than that, it's the new part of it is really what's cool. And that's why ICAST, that's why I get so enamored with ICAST, because I want to see the things that might help me catch just one more fish, And it sounds to me like what you guys are doing is you kind of got the same philosophy, maybe not saying that way, but it's like, man, if we come out and we just tweak this just a little bit or do this just a little bit, it's going to give that guy a chance to catch one more fish.
There might be some new things coming out with the Cinco, right? You never know.
I don't know how you can make it better. I'm sorry. I don't know how you can make it better.
You can't make it better, but you can build different tools for different situations. I can just say that.
I think I will go on record to tell you that, and I've heard this over and over again, but I think, it's one of those things when you're old, you think about it a lot. That's made more crappie fishermen, great fishermen, than any bait that I've ever seen in my life. Now this urchin craze may change my mind a little bit about that, but I think that's the Cinco is a mainstay. It is something that's just crazy how good it is. I can remember when you couldn't get them. You try to buy some of them and you couldn't get them. Now you buy 50 packs, 100 packs. You can do that kind of stuff. You guys got them in bulk. So
this is the 30th anniversary year of the Cinco.
Oh, neat. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yep. 30 years. I mean, you think about that. And you remember when it hit the market, nobody thought it was going to be that. I mean, it's just same with the urchin thing. I mean, it's like anytime something really, really good comes along, it's like, it's like, but I mean, you think about the Cinco being around for 30 years and how many, not just fun fishing, but how many millions of dollars have been made on that bait, or just how many people could tell you right now that they caught their PB on a Cinco, whether it was Mackie rig, Texas rig, you could rig it on anything, Carolina rig. I mean, it's one of those baits that's just tried and true. So like Jack saying, it's not that not that it was better. There just might be some other ways to do it, and thinking about it that, it's, I mean, with what you're saying at ICAST, it's like, I look forward to ICAST too. It's like every year we're so busy though, but it's like, and Jack knows this, we try to make a rounds in there, but if you're caught in a booth or you're this, you're like, and somebody goes, "Oh, did you see that bait at ICAST?" Like, no, I didn't see that bait because I'm tied up or whatever. But yeah, I'm excited this year to really make the rounds and see what everybody has. Talk to everybody about all the different things that that GSM has coming out and worked so hard because, like Jack said, the pros, the entire team, everybody on that GSM team is an end user, right? They're all anglers, they're all fishermen. They were all, whether they were bought with the brand or, got a job or trying to make their, like Jack trying to make the elites. It's cool to watch so much work and effort going in to sit in the creative minds, and then the pros actually coming up with the idea, hey man, I've got a way to tweak this, or let's do this. And then, meeting Jack and Crispin and everybody on the team, just meeting with those guys and just fine tuning until they've got it right, and then releasing it.
You've got young, old, doesn't matter who you are. Everybody wants to catch more fish, and one of the things I think is really that comes out of this is that every year it's a year of something. One year it's a year of the frog. The next year it's a year of the bucket. The Yeti came out with that bucket, which I've never understood. And you had the year of the, now this year, is this going to be the urchin year, or is this going to be a new genre we haven't heard of? What do you think, Jack? You're an innovator. What do you think of it?
I think, the craze with the urchin has spoken for itself. Like I've been kind of, I guess, had a little bit of insight in that I've gotten to be in some of these meetings with some of these accounts, these big chain stores that sell your favorite bass tackle. And every meeting that I've been in this year, they've all said the same thing. They've all said the urchin craze is unlike any craze as far as just volume and demand meeting, like the volume that is demanded and how fast it's evolved and how large it's exploded. That unlike any trend, more than ploppers, more than chatterbaits, so I think we're pretty set. This is the year of the urchin. Pretty set.
I missed a calling a long time ago. Real simple calling. I should have invested in orange cones. The cones like you see on the interstate. I'd be a multimillionaire sitting back, But I missed another calling here recently. The year of the plastic clear box. That deal. I mean, that's something. I mean, you got to have, if you got an urchin, you got to have something to come in it, right? It's got to come in it. So, those are the two callings I wish I'd have jumped on before I knew that I could. You guys are going to come out. You got Phoenix. You got other rod companies that are going to be there. Do you have anything like in the spinnerbait lineup or anything like that you'd like to talk about?
Well, we got some stuff that we would like to talk about. I don't know if we can talk about it. You and I, we were all discussing this a little bit earlier, Terry. Like there's again, not everything. A lot of what's new is just something old that's just been brought back to life. And so you have some experience with the origins of a bait we're coming out with at Buckeye. You're gonna have to wait till ICAST to hear it, but it is something that makes a noise unlike any bait out there.
Well, I know you don't want to announce it here, but I can tell you this old fat guy sitting in Normal, Illinois is fired up about it because it's been a long time coming. And, where you live at, JT, what we're going to talk about here. Stay tuned for this bait. I know you guys have shot video of it, some of that kind of stuff. So if you're not doing anything else at ICAST, you want to watch for this bait. And I tried to tease it the best I could there because without saying what it is, love the name. You're going to know the name the minute you hear it. When you see the video with the name, you're going to say it's perfect. But anyway, I won't give you any more crap about that because I don't want to break the ice on something I think is really going to be cool. How about rods and stuff? Anything new coming there?
Yep. They've got there's some fresh water, salt water, some things like that. Nets. I mean, if you think about a bait, I mean, obviously they own multiple bait companies, but if you come out with a bait, whether it's topwater, crankbait, plastic, they've got a little bit in everything, from the spoons to the everything else. And, rods, there's some new stuff in the excitement in the rods, people that, you've also got, Bonehead on the crappie side of it. You've also got, Big Bite's got some crappie. There's things that always get kind of, ICAST seems to focus so much on the bass fishing world, saltwater, a little bit and stuff too, and crappie and stuff a little bit. But there's some walleye things. I mean, it's all around. There's some really, really good stuff. I mean, we're still not done. We'll still be editing and finishing up Monday as we're flying into ICAST. You know how the one thing about this industry is samples are hard to come by sometimes. So you're always, last minute.
No kidding, Crispin. No kidding.
Yeah, as you know, you
Very
don't
difficult, Crispin.
you don't have one of them that Crispin was promised to you.
Yeah.
I will tease that one though, just like I said earlier. I was on the front of the boat filming. Jack made one cast out of the back of the boat, and I had to turn the camera around and film it because he caught one of the very first cast of the very first hookup of the bait. So
Can I hold you guys to something, both you two? I really want to do this. We're about at the end of the time we've got to do this. I want to hold you to doing one after ICAST. Can we do that? Do another podcast. Let's talk about successes, talk about what people said, talk about your video stuff, all that kind of stuff. Give it a couple weeks, after ICAST, let it settle in a little bit. But I'd like to be able to do this because, man, we just touched the tip of the iceberg, and we have to be secretive, and we can't do all the stuff we'd like to do. After ICAST, we can vent our spleens. Okay, so
we'll have a sample to show you after ICAST of everything too.
Right, you're the audio visual guy, so make sure you have your desk completely filled with them, and then we'll go through that. Jack, you can explain how you did what you did. But let's do it. Let's do another one of these right after ICAST, say the second week after ICAST, where you guys have settled in a little bit. And let's see where we went and what the general feeling was. I know you guys are going to be honest with me. One other thing I want to mention before we get off of here. Jack, you're also fishing the opens, right?
Yes, sir.
Which series of opens are you fishing?
This year, I'm fishing just Division I it seems like I have to remember because they change the format like every 2 years. But they've switched it to two divisions. You got to qualify for the postseason, the EQs. I did that last year for the first time. It's pretty cool to have something to qualify for. I do enjoy that. So I've got one tournament left in Division I to hopefully make the postseason.
That's awesome. I mean, I'm pulling for you. I think young guys like you. Last year Sam Hange, who was close to me, he made it through the EQs and made it through the Elite Series. He used to write for me a little bit, so I love Sam, and I love to see that happening. Good luck to you on that. JT, as always, I appreciate you being here with us. This is All Bass, No Bull. JT Harden, Jack Dice. We'll see you next time.